guys, it's Drifts and Lifts here. Alright, so today's episode, we have a pretty exciting one for you guys. So as you can see here, we got Larry the $200 wagon in the garage. So he's been sitting here for a little while. We got some big plans for it today. The plan for Larry here is, this is going to be kind of the winter wagon that we do. You know, we take it snowboarding, we can take it on rally roads, just film any kind of content that we want. Take it to drift events if we really want to as well. So I figured, you know, I'm gonna be having Larry with me for a while, so we may as well upgrade him and make him pretty good. So big shout out to our sponsors of today's video, Total Turbo Services, as well as the sponsor of the whole channel in general. So he sent me this really sick turbo that I'm really excited to show you guys. So I haven't actually told you guys about this. I've made one post on Instagram about it, but I haven't actually got to, you know, show it off on a video yet. So what we got here, guys, is I found on Marketplace a GMC Typhoon turbo. So this is from if you guys don't know what those vehicles are, it's like a GMC, there's the Cyclone and the Typhoon. And basically it was the Blazer and the S10, but it was like a really hopped up version of it that Chevy did a really limited production run of. So these trucks actually made like 300 horsepower from the factory, 280, 300 around there. And they were all-wheel drive, and they ran the quarter mile in like under 14 seconds right out of the box. So really cool truck. And these things they only made, I want to say, like 7,000 of. They're really rare. So the fact that I was able to find one of the turbochargers off one of those trucks was really cool. I picked it up off Marketplace for dirt cheap, and when I got it, it needed a lot of work. So the turbo wouldn't have been usable the way I had it. But luckily, we got our guys at Total Turbo Services. Shout out to Addison, good friend of mine, and this guy is a master with turbos. So I'm excited to show you guys what he came up with for this thing. So one thing to mention, guys, I actually already unboxed this this turbo. So Addison obviously has it packaged up really nicely when he does send stuff. Really quick turnaround time on this turbo also. So Addison, by the time, you know, I had it over, I shipped it to him, and he had it out the door in not long at all. So really happy with that. And Addison also did, if you guys don't know, he did the whole set on the panel wagon as well. So Total Turbo Services, really stoked about them. Really stoked to be working with these guys. You know, it's a really professional, good company that makes some good quality products. So let's pull this out. Alrighty guys, so here is our Typhoon turbo. So a little bit of info about this thing. I already touched it with my greasy hands, but it's basically a brand new turbo. So this is a TD06 13, or sorry, it's a TD06 17C is what the turbo is called. So if you guys don't know, the factory turbos on these Volvos, they either used a TD04 or a TD05. They also had the choice of a Garrett T3 turbo, but it was more common to see the Mitsubishi ones, in my opinion. So this wagon right now actually has a TD05 12B turbo. So kind of a shitty turbo. You know, they're a little bit bigger than the 13C turbos that the later model 940s and 740s came with. But this turbo right here is a sweet upgrade because it's more or less, you could say, the big brother of the stock Volvo turbos. So yeah, guys, make sure you check out Total Turbo Services. Any kind of upgrades, rebuilds, you know, even if he sells turbos that are fully refurbished already to go. His website link is in the description of this video, so definitely head over there and check him out. Give him a shout. Any turbo stuff you need, guys, he'll be able to help you out. He's a master on the turbo side of things. So really happy with the Total Turbo Services that he's been giving me. What we're going to be doing today, guys, is we're going to be installing this turbo on Larry the wagon, and we're going to show you guys how to. I know I haven't been the best at how-to videos in the past, but we're going to try to do a fairly in-depth video for you guys to show you how to do this. So before we get started, guys, I want to show you a few things that you're going to need beforehand before you start this job. So what we got here is a 90 manifold. So this is from a 1990 plus 740. So these actually came with a little bit better manifold design. So let me take this stud out real quick. So we got this T3 gasket. As you guys can see, I know I did a terrible job. It's kind of ugly, but what you're gonna have to do is port out this manifold to a T3 size flange. So how you do that is you're gonna get a T3 gasket and kind of just put it over there. and then trace it with like a marker or something. Then you're gonna want to get your Dremel and port it out. Now, this is after, I should mention, getting this manifold machined by a proper machine shop. So if you look here, this is completely flat. Whereas if you look at the manifold when it came on the car, it actually had a stepped lip, and that's how they were able to seal with no gasket. But you know, you can't use that style with the T3 style turbo. So this is what you need. What you're gonna do is, yeah, like I said, just put that over there and trace it and then Dremel it out to as close as you can. One thing I should mention is the inlets of those stock T3 turbos aren't actually quite this big. So I kind of screwed up, guys, and when you're doing this, you might want to leave a little bit of extra space, because if you put this gasket over the entrance of the inlet of that turbo, it's actually going to be a little small. And the problem is we're going to have some overlap, so a little bit of jagged edges, but you know, it's going to be the matter of like a couple horsepower maybe. So I'm not too concerned, but just something you should keep in mind for when you guys do this. So another thing, guys, is these manifolds are really prone to cracking. So they usually get a couple of cracks on the collector in this region. So I had a big crack there and a crack there. I just bodged a bunch of greasy weld over it. I don't know if it's really gonna, you know, fix the problem, but I think it will. I don't think it's gonna leak out there. And honestly, when they do crack, they don't really leak from the small, tiny cracks. They're just like hairline cracks. They're not really gonna affect your like spool or anything like that. So not a huge deal, but I figured I had a welder by me, so I'd do it anyways. All right, guys, so let's start disassembling our old turbo setup, getting it off the motor so we can work towards putting our new turbo on. So as far as taking these turbos off, guys, there's a lot of different steps. As far as taking a turbo off on a car, it's fairly easy compared to a lot of turbos on different cars. But what we're gonna start off with is the basic stuff, like let's drain the coolant. So I already did that actually. Let's make this area able to work with. So let's try to clear all unnecessary stuff out. If you guys see my factory air box, I took this boost hose off, disconnected the water lines from the turbo, so there's gonna be 2 of them. I disconnected the coolant hose from the water pump here, kind of just let it drain down. So this car is going to be a little bit easier than some other cars because I already have the downpipe completely hacked off. So I should be able to more or less just pull this manifold and turbo out in one big piece, probably with the exhaust as well. But if you guys have a full exhaust and that kind of thing, you're going to have to take off the downpipe. All right, so you guys are going to have to disconnect these 3 bolts. We got one right here, and one on the bottom. So take those off, and I would recommend, guys, that you soak all your bolts and nuts in some sort of PB blaster, some sort of penetration oil, because if your car's high kilometers, chances are that all your exhaust manifold nuts and studs are going to be freaking seized. So I would honestly spend, before you even get started on this job, spend like, maybe like 2 or 3 days just soaking them in PB blaster, just so, because the last thing you want to do is snap off an exhaust stud in the head. And that does happen, really common. And if it does happen, you're gonna have to pull the head and get the stud out that way, which is a pain in the dick. So anyways, guys, what I'm gonna start by doing here after I got all my coolant and stuff drained is I'm gonna take off the 8 exhaust manifold nuts. So some of them, as you can see, came out with the stud. The stud actually came out of the head. Some of them, maybe the nuts will come off the studs, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So let me get that done, then we'll move to the next step. All right, so as I was editing this video, I just realized that I kind of forgot something that would really help you guys out to take this turbo out quicker. So I actually went through the effort of like taking the whole thing as one piece. I could do that because I was actually going to get rid of the factory hardline, and I was going to, I don't have a downpipe on it. I'm really small in that kind of sense. But what you guys can do that makes it actually a lot easier to take it out in 2 pieces is you can disconnect this V-band, and then your whole turbo will actually, the center section right here, as well as this compressor housing, will literally just slide out of the exhaust housing. All that's holding it in is this V-band clamp here. So take that out, and the next thing you'll have to do is disconnect. So the next thing you'll have to do is disconnect this wastegate actuator. So you're just gonna pull the pin out and then slide this off. my actuator is broken. That's why I took this turbo out in the first place, really. Janky. But yeah, once you disconnect this wastegate actuator rod from the exhaust housing, you can literally slide that out, and that's gonna make it way easier to take this turbo out. So I figured I'd let you guys know that. And here's the manifold brace that I was talking about. That's where the bolt goes. You're gonna have to get that off if you wanna get the manifold off. All right guys, so we are ready to pull our turbo out now. So I got both of those coolant lines off. I disconnected the banjo bolt for the oil feed on the top of the turbo. And I got all my manifold studs out, and like I said, I don't have a manifold brace, so you guys are gonna have to deal with that, but I don't, because I already dealt with it last time. So, let's see if I can kind of jimmy this thing. Another thing, guys, is the factory oil line is a hard line, right? So it's not gonna really wanna bend or move out of the way. So I can be angry with this hard line, I can destroy it because we're going to be replacing it. But if you're going to reuse the hard line, I would try to be nice with it. But honestly, I think your best bet is to always go with a braided oil feed line. I'll show you guys what we'll be doing once I get this turbo out, but I'll show you the reason why you want a braided line. It's a lot easier to work with, and yeah, this stock turbo oil feed can just be a bit of a pain. So we're gonna bend it out of the way because I don't need it. So just like that. You can bend them a little bit and bend them back, but if you bend them too much, they will snap.
Which one did you bend?
That's right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we just did that to kind of get her out. So we'll pull our O2. Okay, now it'll come out.
Yay.
Here you go. Now we have our old turbo out. So now we're gonna start doing things to prep ourselves for the new turbo. So, all right guys, so I went to Mopac, which is a local auto supply place that got everything performance oriented. And I picked myself up a braided oil line. So these actually came pre-made, should work pretty good for my application. And we got this, I want to say -6 to -4 adapter. So what we're gonna do, guys, is we need to figure out an oiling input for our new turbo. So what we could do, all right guys, so we could take our oil feed, run a new braided line from the stock oil feed location down here on the block, but there's not a whole lot of room there, honestly, and I'd prefer to plug that off and not have to deal with that, because then the line's got to come around and up and over and stuff. So what we're gonna do instead is I'm gonna take that line out, we're gonna plug it off. I have a plug, I think somewhere in the truck there, and then what we're gonna do is run our oil feed from the factory oil sensor location. All right guys, so day 2 in the garage here. So the reason we couldn't finish this job yesterday was because we kind of ran into some setbacks. So let me just show you here. Also, the reason I don't have cameraman Blaine with me is he's coming pretty soon. He's just tied up right now. So I'm filming this section on my GoPro. I apologize guys, but we should be able to get kind of down here so I can show you guys some stuff. So if you remember yesterday, I was telling you about the oil line, so the oil feed line, and essentially that is right there. So I actually thought I had a plug for that because I'm gonna plug off that port, and I'm gonna actually be using the port on where the oil sender was, the oil pressure sensor. So the factory oil pressure sensor location, I'm actually gonna use the port right there to run my oil feed line. But the factory oil port just down there, what I did is I couldn't find the right size plug. So I took the banjo bolt and I took the braid or the hard line and actually just welded it up. So it's basically just like a plug right now, and I used the factory banjo bolt. So what we got going on here now, guys, is I'm gonna start installing the exhaust manifold. So I just got some new exhaust manifold gaskets. They're sitting somewhere, right here. And actually yesterday, last night, I went over to my buddy Josh's and we welded up this hood pipe. So it's got a O2 bung on it. I know the welding's not the best, but it's not too bad. It'll seal nicely. So this should kind of put me right above the hood. And I actually just bought a 4-inch hole saw as well. So we'll be able to make like a hole in the hood kind of around here. So next on the list, guys, as you can see, I kind of got last night I was tinkering around in the garage here. I got the oil line kind of lined up. So what I'm gonna be doing, guys, is I got this push lock hose. It's not, this is not the most proper way to do this. In the past, what I like to do is get a dash 10 braided line and run this Yoshi Fab setup. So Yoshi Fab actually makes this little oil bung and it presses into your block. Let me just show you here. And then essentially you can thread AN fittings onto it. So makes it really dope. Definitely no leaks that way. But I could not get this out of this block. There must be a trick to it. And also I don't have all the AN stuff to, you know, extra AN lines to run that on this car. So whatever, we're gonna leave this as is. And what I'm gonna do, guys, is do something a little more on the janky side. We're gonna run this push lock fitting, clamp it to here, and then we're gonna run a small like section of push lock, probably about from here to here. And then that bottom part is gonna connect to, so you guys can see that's the factory oil drain tube. I'm gonna be siliconing that in with some really strong silicone. And it actually has the factory O-ring. There's that orange O-ring down there. So I'm gonna be using that, and then once it's all settled, I'm going to clamp the push lock hose onto there, and I think it should be fine. It's not under pressure, so it's not a huge deal, but we definitely don't want it to be leaking because that's really gross, but should be fine. If it doesn't work, you know, I'll have to figure something else out. Maybe I'll go to like a AN fitting setup, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So, all right, guys, so there is my oil line. So as far as the fittings, I believe I used like a -4 to -6, and then a -6 to -4. Went back to -4 so I can hook up this line to it. So I don't know, you guys will probably have to just go to like an auto parts store and you know, somewhere that has AN fittings and kind of piece it. I just brought basically the oil pressure sensor and I brought it to them, and I was like, I need a fitting that's gonna go to -4 with this thread pitch and this thread size. They got me hooked up. So all right, so everything down here is all good. So now I'm going to, like I said, install the exhaust manifold. New shiny parts. All right, so I just got the exhaust manifold installed, as you can see there. A little bit tricky with the bolts, or sorry, the studs, instead of like actually having the nuts come off the studs, just because you don't want to strip out that head. So you want to make sure you don't go too tight on that. But yeah, as you guys can see, the turbo fits pretty nicely in here. So what I'm doing now is I just installed a T3 gasket. So I'm just clamping the turbo to the manifold right now. And then we can hook up our oil line, our coolant lines, as you guys can see. These coolant hard lines, these are from the factory turbo, and they actually fit pretty good. We've got a little bit of issue right here because we're pretty close to the wastegate nipple for the wastegate actuator, but I think it's gonna fit once we tighten it up. And yeah, we're just gonna be able to run our stock factory coolant lines, which is gonna be really cool. A lot of the time, if you guys are doing turbo upgrade, a lot of the time these, you know, the turbo you're putting in won't have coolant lines or a coolant passageway. So like for my whole set, for example, on the panel wagon, I'm just running it strictly oil cooled. So it doesn't even have coolant going through it. That's no big deal. Usually the bigger turbos, they're just oil cooled. A lot of the smaller size turbos are gonna be water cooled, just like ones that were in passenger cars, just so people that are driving them on the highway and that kind of thing don't pull into their workplace or go to get McDonald's and instantly turn their car off and crust up their turbo. So, all right, guys, so I got this downpipe we'll be installing in a little bit. I got to make a little bit of room right here because it's actually coming up really close here. But yeah, we're making our way there. So let's hook everything up, make sure everything's tight, and then we're gonna have to go underneath and deal with the drain. All right, guys, so our turbo is almost all the way installed. So what I'm gonna be doing right now is taking my grinder and I'm gonna hack like a chunk of the hood support out because I have a 4-inch hole saw that I just bought. So I'm gonna be using this. The exhaust is 3-inch, so 4-inch should give us like a 1/2 inch on each side for a bit of flex or whatever. So what we're gonna do, unfortunately the hood pipe is a little bit close to the firewall. little closer than I would have liked, but I might have to get some heat wrap eventually, but you know, we should be fine for today. But yeah, so I'm gonna cut this and this, and then we'll find where to hole saw, and it should be good. I think I'll probably leave like a little bit poking out, but I don't really want cops to notice that I have a hood pipe, so I might end up cutting it flush with the hood, you know, once we're happy with it. All right, so I'll show you guys under here what I got going on for the oil drain. Now, I don't know if this is gonna work. I'm a little bit skeptical. I took some The Right Stuff RTV, it's called. It's like the strongest stuff they got. So I used the stock orange O-ring and I plunged it in there. Just lathered it up in RTV. I cleaned the spot really nicely so it's got no oil or anything on it before I put that in. And yeah, I just clamped this piece of push lock hose on. So hopefully it works. I'm waiting for this to settle right now. Hopefully it's strong enough. So we'll have to see. All right, so everything is all buttoned up on the turbo. So as we can see here, guys, what I did, it was kind of cool. Luckily I have a big bin full of just random rubber hoses and intercooler boots and stuff. So I actually had this 90, and because the outlet of the turbo comes off this way for this turbo, whereas the stock one, it kind of sits more over here. I was able to just go 90 and 90, and it kind of lined it up for the stock hoses again. So works perfectly. I haven't started the car yet. I'm gonna get that on video. All I'm doing right now is drilling a hole in my hood. So just getting the pilot hole for the hole saw. I just chopped all this kind of stuff out because it was gonna get in the way. So all right, guys, so this is the finished product of the turbo install. So I got my hole in the hood, as you guys can see there. I did not line up the hole saw very well, so that's why it's shaped like a bullet, basically. So I haven't started the car up yet. Let's do that right now. I just filled it up with oil and coolant, so we're good there. Let's see what this thing sounds like. I should probably turn it over a little bit before, just to get the, every time you do a new turbo with new oil lines, you want to take the fuel pump fuse out and turn the car over a bunch, so you can get the oil circulating and get it through the lines into the turbo before you actually start the car. So what we'll do here, guys, is I'll just crank it over a little bit. Oh, okay. Oh. So I just want to kind of get the oil going. Starting really easily though. Okay, that should be good. Sounds cool. Check for oil leaks. Doesn't look like it. Alright, so I thought I was going to be able to take you guys for a nice rip in this thing and go, you know, do some drifts in it or whatever. But unfortunately, my plug for the factory hard oil feed line is leaking pretty bad. So what I'll do right now, guys, is we'll take a little stroll around the block. It's leaking oil really bad, but we'll be good to just rip around the block. I'll show you guys what it sounds like. I'll strap the GoPro to the hood. We'll just, you know, maybe get it into boost a little bit. It's pretty cool. It seems like this turbo is definitely quicker spooling than the whole set. It's still a little bit, it's definitely laggier than the stock turbo, but a little bit of lag is kind of fun, honestly. So you could probably hear there, I hit fuel cut. So I have the boost controller turned up a little bit. I don't know what this wastegate actuator exactly is set at, just from the factory. The Typhoon forums were saying 14 pounds, but as soon as it hits boost, it goes to like 7, and then it kind of keeps on ramping up. So I'm hoping that this wastegate is adequate. Like I hope I don't get like a boost creep issue with this car, because I'm gonna run out of fuel, because if we creep past 15 PSI, we're actually gonna run this thing lean. So I'm gonna have to deal with that. I'll turn the boost controller all the way down and we'll see what happens in that setting. Hopefully it'll be able to hold steady boost. But yeah, so I think it sounds really cool. I like all the pops and crackles. And the reason... So this turbo is factory, it doesn't have a internal blow-off valve like the factory Mitsubishis do. So that's why you guys were probably hearing a lot more pops and crackles, because it's gonna rich spike, because it's a MAF car. You know, it's gonna be inputting fuel, it's gonna be reading the air going through the MAF, it's gonna input the fuel for it. Oh, shit, okay, look what we got here. This blew off, so we got an issue there. Don't you guys think it's cool how I have stock white turbo wagon and modified white turbo wagon, but stock white turbo wagon isn't really stock anymore, is it? All right guys, so that's pretty much a wrap up of today's video. I apologize that we can't go for a nice rip and film some cool stuff. We're gonna do that on the next episode. I'm gonna get cameraman Blaine with his good camera setup. He was busy today, so he couldn't come and film stuff for me, but that's all right. Also, I wanna mention guys, the merchandise is coming. It's been a big struggle with getting the right suppliers, getting our site all set up and that kind of thing. So it just takes so long, you know, when you input a design and then they get back to you with a rough copy, you don't quite like it, and then you change it up. It takes a couple days for them to get back to you. It's just a long process, so we're really working on it. Let me know what you guys want. So we have a couple of choices. What I'm really thinking is our classic Epic Volvo Drift design. Let me know in the comments, do you guys prefer the Epic Volvo Drift design or the beer shirts? Because we're buying all of our merchandise in one big order and then we're gonna be selling it slowly, we're gonna have to put a lot of our own money up front. So it's gonna cost us a ton of money. So I really wanna know that, you know, what kind of design you guys are gonna like the most, because if we buy all this merch and we only sell like a quarter of it, it's gonna put me in a little bit of a tough spot. So yeah, just let me know what you guys want. What I'm thinking is the Epic Volvo Drift, so that, you know, the simple front of the 740 with drifts and lifts Epic Volvo Drift underneath. So I was gonna do that shirt, but we're gonna have a patch shirt, so on the front, and then we're gonna have the full design on the back. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now for our first new merch drop. But let us know in the comments what you guys wanna see. I could do another beer logo. I could get my friend Davis to make up a new design. It's gonna take a little bit longer though, because that's gonna take a while for him to whip that up. He's a really busy guy. So in the meantime, if you guys want to support the channel, we still have our Patreon. I know I never really mentioned this on the channel, but right now is the time we really need help with funds and stuff with our big merchandise drop. So check out the link to the Patreon if you guys want to donate a couple bucks per month or do a one-time donation, whatever you like. All the proceeds go towards basically making the channel more entertaining, making the cars better, doing more mods on the cars, filming better videos, that kind of thing. So anyways, guys, I'll leave you there for today. Like and subscribe for dank Volvo cheese. Peace out.